Glad you could join us today on Earthfile. Welcome to the program. I'm Ayola Kasim. It has been said that 2020 buzzword is nature. It envelopes us, and for better or worse, it leaves no one behind. The increase in global temperature human activities have created affect the balance of nature. Cause and effect we are all too familiar with. It is a common knowledge that the way individuals relate to the natural environment is culturally patterned. The earliest humans were hunter-gatherers, collecting many kinds of plants and hunting animals for food. Because most ecosystems can only support a very small number of hunter-gatherers, the population of early humans remained small. This reduced their effect on the environment, but early humans still caused remarkable changes in animal populations through hunting. Today, the impact of human activities on the environment vary greatly around the world. And some have asked, what can the cultural and religious institutions do to help solve the problem? Well, I have learned some. So today we open Earthfile with what one of the holy books say about man and nature and what we all can learn from it. Do stay with us.
Corruption has appeared on earth and at sea because of what the hands of men have wrought, in order that God may make them taste the consequences of their actions, so that they might return. That is, so that they might return to God. The Quran, the holy book in Islam, contains over 750 references to ecology and how those principles can be applied to caring for the environment. Believed to be a sublime revelation with remarkable ideas, the Holy Quran is a scripture read by Muslims for spirituality. Islamic scholars believe the Quran is not limited to only that. In Islam, faith in the environment is on par to good faith towards humanity and indeed God, since Muslims believe He created all. The Hadith, a collection of teachings by the Prophet Muhammad, also contains a number of passages concerning wild animals, livestock, plants, crops, soil, and of course water, an especially important resource in the desert societies from which Islam first emerged.
You have educated us, you have enlightened us, and you have supported us.
Leveraging on religious teachings, the first female general manager of Lagos State Environmental Protection Agency, Dr. Dolapo Fashawe, decided to change tacks in ensuring there is a reduction in noise pollution in Lagos. LASEPA is the environmental regulator for Lagos State in charge of assisting the public to achieve compliance by providing environment-friendly solutions to varied environmental challenges. Dr. Fashawe leads her team in empowering faith-based institutions in the state to intensify efforts to bring a significant level of control to pollution in Lagos.
So we thought about it that who best to educate us and educate the people on how to deal with noise pollution when it comes to worship. The message really across board has been, whatever you're doing that disturbs your neighbor or somebody has a cause to complain about is not worshiping God. And I would repeat it. It's almost hypocritical and a show that is unnecessary. That is the feedback we have gotten from the religious leaders. Of course, there's space for evangelism, where you have to reach out to people, one-on-one, or to a group of people. We give permits for that. Remember, we always say, the sound is not irritating. Noise is what is irritating. And sound becomes noise when it is repeated, persistent, aggravating. Hence, noise permits for occasional events that are time-bound. And we found out that more than handbills and posters and radio jingles, religious leaders talking to the worshippers and the branch heads or the sect heads have really helped in this campaign.
But the task is a tough one. While faith-based values remain a core inspiration to more than 20 million residents of Lagos, the vast majority of its people now identify places of worship as the biggest nuisance to public peace. LASEPA remains under pressure to lead in best practices in curbing noise pollution which is said to cause mental problems, hearing impairment, and high blood pressure. That's according to a 2007 report by the World Health Organization. Hundreds of thousands of places of worship are also thought to be violating a Noise Pollution Act passed 6 years ago. Under the provisions of the legislation, the law requires churches and mosques to be noise-proof and prohibits the installation of loudspeakers outside their premises. Noisy vigils are also forbidden in residential areas.
It's strange, the preachers end up enlightening us. Any form of religion, across all board, all the ones we have spoken to, preach tolerance, good neighborliness. And a man said to me that anything you do, be it prayer, that disturbs your neighbor is ungodly. Any prayer that you make that is not between you and God is a show. In essence, there's no reason for noise when we're preaching. Now there's evangelism where we want to talk to a lot of people. It doesn't happen every day, hence the occasional noise permits. And town planning laws, when the congregation is larger than a certain number, where there would be need for amplified sound, they're sent to the outskirts of town, and you know they are there. But unfortunately, we're bringing these things into residential areas. It's probably part of urbanization without guiding rules and laws.
Many faith-based organizations are also working towards compliance. A few minutes past 4 in the evening, and it's time for Azru, one of the 5 daily prayers in Islam, at the Lagos State Secretariat Mosque. The time for Azri lasts until the sun turns yellow. The mosque is a community central worship center in Ikeja, the capital of Lagos.
What we did first was to change the generating set, our generator.
Dr. Afolabi Abiodun is the chairman of the executive council of the mosque. He's leading the Green Revolution effort here.
So we now say, look, what can we do as religion? And if you come here every blessed day, noise pollution is reduced to the minimal and barest level. We don't make use of our own speakers. For Zuhr, for Subi prayer, that is the morning prayer, we don't use our own speaker. For Zuhr prayer, we don't use the own speaker. For Asri prayer, we don't use the own speaker. For Maghrib, we don't use. And the last one, Ishai, we don't use. What we do is to use the small in-house speaker that will always take those that are within the mosque that are praying. And to those that are outside, they will never hear us pray. And that is part of what we are saying. We must find a way to reduce the effect of pollution. The person going by must not be disturbed. Somebody that is meditating, by the time he or she hears the noise of, he will lose thought. The only time, and I repeat, and I can say that we make use of our own speaker is on Fridays. And it's always within the hour of 1 o'clock and 2:15. Just 1.5 hours. Then after then, all the speakers are off and dead. We will not put them on again until the next coming Friday.
Science and religion are often thought of as being at odds on many issues. On the question of the environment, however, there is widespread agreement. Dr. Afolabi, who is Director of Enforcement and Advocacy in the Ministry of the Environment, says apart from his work, it is important for him as well as for all faith organizations to work with the government because that is the core of their belief, and science has made the danger clearer.
Look around this place. You will see nearly everywhere is greenery. Because whether we like it or not, all the carbon monoxide, all the fumes that comes out from the textiles, the industry around us, the automobiles. It is only when we plant trees, it is only when we plant greens that will help us to sequester this carbon dioxide. One of the roles in which tree does and in which plants do is to help to sequester the carbon monoxide, and they will release oxygen. In doing that, they are giving us a pure oxygen to breathe in as human beings. Not only human beings too, they are giving green and pure oxygen to the atmosphere to balance, to checkmate. If not, all of us will just be like a living corpse, breathing in carbon dioxide all through and not having something to replace it for us in terms of oxygen. So it is important, and that is why we advocate, we tell people, always plant trees.
Islam teaches that the role of people on earth is that of Khalifa, or trustee of God, whereby humans are entrusted with the safekeeping of earth and its variety of life. The Quran states, "There is not an animal that lives on the earth, nor a being that flies on its wings, but forms part of communities like you." The Prophet Muhammad is quoted as saying, "There is a reward in doing good to every living thing." The first Global Environmental Forum from an Islamic perspective, held from 23rd to 25th of October 2000 in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, with the United Nations Environment Programme as a partner, adopted the Jeddah Declaration on the environment from an Islamic perspective. That declaration notes that sustainable development from an Islamic perspective is the development and rehabilitation of the earth in a manner that does not disrupt the equilibrium established by God for everything in this universe. It further notes that environmental protection is an integral part of sustainable development and cannot be considered separately.
It's not either or. You can still get what you need to eat to satisfy your needs and still protect the environment. And actually, the environment, the trees, the forests, the wildlife and others can also help you satisfy your hunger and your needs and so on. So we'll never go out and say don't cut trees for firewood, but we'll say if you do that, do it sustainably. Don't go and take medicinal plants from forest. No conservationist will ever tell you that, but he will say if you do that, don't take it in a way that you will deplete all the plants and then tomorrow you don't have any more sources of your medicine or your food or your fiber or your firewood.
Although much has been made of the issue of science versus religion, it seems that on one of the most important issues in our time, the issue of climate change, there's strong agreement about what is happening in the environment and what needs to be done to protect it.
We cannot have a concern for the environment unless we address the issue of consumerist capitalism, because we have told people that they ought to be able to have whatever they want, which creates tremendous dissatisfaction. We've also fed them this lie that if they could have everything they want, they'd be happy. Well, the most unhappy people I meet in the world are the very rich. I'd like to have some of their problems, but you know, that is an issue. So I think we've got to, in terms of dealing with the environment, it's not just how do we preserve trees. It's not just how do we get the waters clean. It's not just how do we stop the plastics going into fish. It's about how do we understand why we are here. Because until we have a bigger picture of why we are here, we're just going to go on trying to take stuff to give ourselves a sense of security, a sense of meaning, a sense of purpose. So it calls for a fundamental change. It asks for us to go back often to ancient wisdoms that we are part of a community first and individual second, and that our communities are part of a bigger community of all life on earth, and that humanity perhaps has to come second.
Only a few extinctions are attributed to climate change, reports the IPCC. But climate change that occurred much more slowly over millions of years caused major ecosystem shifts and species extinctions. Land and sea animals are changing their geographic ranges and migratory patterns due to climate change. Environment experts believe the protection of the natural environment against indiscriminate exploitation of mineral wealth, deforestation, erosion, Bush burning and desertification, as well as natural disasters, can be achieved through the instruments of culture. There are over 4 million Nigerians living in land erosion areas, accounting for about $1.5 billion yearly economic losses to climate change issues. The role of traditional leaders in protecting and restoring the Nigerian environment is the focus of the 18th SLA Jew Memorial Lecture, organized by the Nigerian Conservation Foundation recently in Lagos.
We didn't even know what environmental degradation is.
The Sultan of Sokoto, who is also the chairman of the National Council of Traditional Rulers of Nigeria, as well as co-chairman of Nigerian Interreligious Council, Muhammad Sahad Abubakar, was the guest speaker at the lecture. Had he told his audience that traditional societies from time immemorial have a special relationship with their environment, the mountains, forests, rivers and farmlands, and the wildlife that are part and parcel of the community, stressing that they have an important role to play in mitigating the menace of environmental degradation by sensitizing their subjects.
Some of us serve as both traditional and religious leaders, and this makes our position even stronger in influencing and persuading our followers to support a sustainable lifestyle. But it is important to understand the source of this influence. First, the traditional and religious leaders live in the midst of their people and have over centuries enjoyed their trust. They are most often the first point of call for the ordinary people whenever they have problems. Second, the leaders speak their language. Like a Lagosian speaks only a Lagos language, which a Southerner may not understand. So the leaders speak their language and understand what their culture is, so this makes communication much easier. Third, the leader's knowledge of the local environment makes him particularly suitable to monitor the environment. Fourth, the traditional administrative network allows traditional leaders to access any violation and take measures to address the problems. Fifth, the traditional institutions hold the record of the land, forest, and water resources, and in event of any disputes, they are the institutional memory of their own communities and are best positioned to play the role of the guardianship of the environment.
The Alake of Egbaland, Oba Adedotun Gbadebo, who was also present at the lecture, said with the reality of the moment, 2020 might be the hottest year ever witnessed. So there's the need for everyone to brace up for the challenge and protect the environment for further calamities.
Problems we are facing in the world as a whole. It's already affecting us here. When we were younger, so many of us could sleep in one room, even with very tiny window, and we sleep without sweating. Now, when you have no power in your house, somebody told me 2 nights ago when they took power in their house, she didn't know what to do. The generator was not working, and it was so hot. And the heat this year, as we are going now, if we continue like this may be the hottest year ever. So for someone who had all the comfort of life to think about what our own world will become, to think about where we are heading for.
The Nigerian Conservation Foundation every January over the last 18 years reflects on the memory of its founder, Chief Shafi Lawal Eju, who had the vision, along with some colleagues, to establish the first national conservation non-governmental organization in Nigeria 40 years ago. The foundation has tried to set the tone for the year in exploring urgent, important, and new areas that should get attention on conservation in Nigeria.
We had a big example made today about desert encroachment. If you take that encroachment over a period of 50 years, it will get to Kano very soon. We are losing massive areas of land to the desert encroachment in the north. In the south, if we take Lagos State here, Lekki, that axis where we have built up the extension to Bar Beach. There is an erosion that is happening along the coastline that Lagos State has tried to prevent by building groins into the water in order for the shoreline not to be degraded, not to be eroded. The groins have pushed that erosion further and further away from the built-up areas, but it hasn't solved the problem. Lagos State is still building more groins, but the erosion is happening further and further away. We are still losing land to the shoreline being eroded. Animals. Up to maybe a year ago, Nigerians didn't know that we had elephants in Nigeria. Just last year, there were talks of these elephants crossing the expressway and causing chaos. We need to educate our people to protect these animals. I was in East Africa 2 years ago, and you drive along the expressway and there are herds of elephants just wandering peacefully, nobody disturbing or interrupting them. In Nigeria, we have the elephants in the bush, and farmers are busy chasing them, trying to kill them as a trophy, not understanding that these animals are so rare and we do need to protect them. So many examples of areas where we need emphasis. The problems are huge.
Last year, it identified faith and religion as powerful motivators for getting people to change their attitude and behavior towards the environment. This year, it argued that there is a huge and untapped resource in the fight to save the Nigerian environment, that is, the role of traditional leaders.
The message has not come across yet to the majority of Nigerians. Even the majority of Nigerians in influential positions. We have to do much, much more. We've been on for some years. We've had some successes, getting the government, federal government, to sign many of the international protocols, getting our own people, first in 1984, legislate against endangered species, how to preserve them, and so forth and so on. But in terms of implementation, and of course, we also succeeded in getting the federal government to create what you call the Ecology Fund. But in terms of implementation, we have not yet gone very far. It is a recognition that in order to communicate and impact on people, you have to expand and expand. We started with convince people talking, then we've moved on to interfaith collaboration, and now we're having traditional rulers. I mean, it's all a realization that you can do more to communicate and mobilize. It's not desperate.
The world is facing environment issues, with statistics showing that the past 5 years or the last decade have been the hottest record globally for the last 150 years. This has led to severe storm, drought, wildfires, and so many other catastrophes affecting millions of people around the world.
Today, the types and severity of pollution vary greatly around the world. Some of these can be attributed to the kinds of activities and resources available in an area, and some of cultural activities and practices regarding the environment. The fact is, religion, belief, culture, or even science does not support the destruction of the environment. So I hope you will be kind to nature. That's our program for the week. Thank you for watching. We hope to be back with you next week. But our inbox is available for your comments and questions. You can also watch us on YouTube. From me, Ayola Kasim, and the crew here in Lagos, it's bye for now.